When assisting individuals with mental illness, it's important to remember that legal issues don't exist in a vacuum. An individual with mental illness often will face multiple complex and compounding legal and non-legal issues. It's fairly well recognised now that it's important to provide holistic access to justice and to take a holistic approach to the individual's legal and non-legal issues, and that a failure to do so might mean that legal issues resurface again in the future. A good way to achieve holistic access to justice and approach to services is through collaboration. So collaboration between legal and non-legal services is invaluable to ensure that all the individual's legal and non-legal issues are appropriately dealt with. To ensure that a collaborative relationship remains strong and that the relationship remains effective and as efficient as possible, it's important to continue engaging in regular discussions with the other legal and non-legal services. That might be in person, over the telephone, by email, to foster an ongoing effective relationship. It's fairly well recognised that this sector is really quite resource poor, which really adds to the value of collaboration between services. No one organisation is able to adequately deal with every single issue that might come to them for an individual with mental illness. So it's important to collaborate with other services to ensure effective and efficient service delivery and a holistic approach to the individual's issues. Some common misconceptions when assisting a client from other services is, for example, some individuals, particularly non-legal services, might misunderstand the role of the lawyer and expect the lawyer to take a particularly adversarial approach to their dealings with other services. If that's the case, the other services, they may disengage or shut the lawyer out and may be less willing to assist the lawyer in assisting the individual. To avoid these circumstances, it's typically best to clearly educate and provide a clear understanding to the other non-legal services about the role of the lawyer and clearly acknowledge the importance of respecting and preserving therapeutic relationships that the individual has with these other non-legal services.
What's really key, and what I learnt from looking at the research around health justice partnerships and collaborations, was to establish relationships, because you're needing to work across disciplines. So it was necessary to establish relationships with medical profession, with social work professionals, with health administrators, and within the legal sector.
With the patients that we see here, we often see patients who are very vulnerable, who have mental health issues, who often have multiple disabilities as well as medical problems, and the sort of complexities of their care go well beyond what can normally be dealt with a usual medical model of care implementation. So you really do need a multidisciplinary approach, and you need to look at their basic hierarchy of needs. So, before somebody can even benefit from your treating their mental illness or their neurological condition, you need to actually look at their basic physiological needs. Do they have a decent place to live, to stay? Do they have a roof over their heads? Can they eat? Do they have basic access to health care? Are they safe? And these are really core fundamental requirements that everyone needs to get better. So I guess I saw the opportunity of advocacy clinic as something that can address patients' needs in a much broader sense than just a usual medical model approach to care for people with mental illness and disability. It has to be a true multidisciplinary partnership, so you really need to have the type of relationship with the solicitors and doctors and social workers and all the health professionals involved. They need to be able to talk to each other on a first-name basis, be able to contact each other through email or through mobile phones, and to follow up on the different sort of intricacies of each case, because the cases can get very complicated. Having co-location is really, really helpful, because actually being in the same room with the social worker and the lawyer and the patient's family with the doctor, that makes all the difference in the world, because then you can actually have everything discussed in an open manner and have everyone on the same page, which is really, really important for the success of this. So when I have a patient who I'm seeing who maybe I hadn't even considered referring to the clinic, and suddenly something comes up in the conversation, for me just to be able to walk to the room next door and have a brief informal chat with Karen and say, hey, I've got this patient who has this situation, do you think the clinic can help? And then she can nip over, talk to the patient briefly, and then that's really good for the patient as well, because the patient then doesn't have a fear of meeting a lawyer, a fear of going through some sort of formal process. And you know, they can see that it's a very human approach, and it's a very holistic approach, and a very personal approach. So to actually meet the patient and have everyone talking and being in the same room makes a big difference. Well, it's about talking to them, and you have to obviously ask their permission. So it takes some explanation. So you want to, and I usually will approach this instead of not saying, oh, can I bring a lawyer into the room? That usually can be off-putting to some people, but more talking about the advocacy clinic and its multidisciplinary stance, and we have a team of people that include social workers, lawyers, and medical students. And that's really important, that they see that this is a group of people who are looking to advocate on their behalf, to help them with whatever that social, ethical, legal issue is.
The importance of the approach is sort of summed up by therapeutic jurisprudence, and often when talking to law students and lawyers, it's often the lawyers are the last one in and the first to leave. So we can't, as lawyers, leave a heavy footprint on the person's life. The ethical approach of do no harm is very, very important. So the support network that the person has prior to, which includes the treating teams and case managers and support services and family, etc. You want that to still be intact when you leave. Lawyers are often there for a specific issue or issues. They're referred, they come in, they take instructions, they become familiar with the network and what's working for the person, what's not working so well for the person, and then leave when that issue is addressed. So if you're coming heavy-handed with an adversarial approach, or assuming that everyone else is not on the side of the patient, that it's only you, that's extraordinarily unrealistic and can be damaging. It's important to set clear expectations, that sometimes the complexity of a person's situation has evolved over time, that is the complexity, and then that it's unlikely that with one or two interviews that will disappear or diminish. It's often about giving people choices when they've had limited choices, and giving people options, which can be a very positive experience for people. And but introducing yourself, what your role, I'm here to ask you questions about X or Y. This is important because of this hearing that's coming up, or I understand you have a problem with, and be clear and specific. I'm here to help. I need to understand your situation as much as I possibly can in the time we've got available. And rather than over-promising and setting really high, unrealistic expectations, even if that's an attitude that you have and you don't explicitly say that, it's important to clarify it internally and then say that. So the person isn't being set up to fail, because a lot of people, once they understand the complexity, it's sort of like a human reaction to try and promise the world to fix it, and that's not usually possible. It's about improvement, and that can be incrementally at first.
So yeah, I think that's important to outline in that very first meeting. There's the different roles of the different professionals and the expectations of what the outcomes will be, and that In medicine, in mental health, and in medical legal issues, there's a lot of uncertainty. So as part of that is actually helping the patient understand that there is uncertainty, that none of those areas are actually true sciences with clear 100% outcomes guaranteed. I think the patient actually appreciates if they realize that up front, that there is uncertainty, but they have a team of people working to try to improve their situation.
For someone with a mental illness, it can be the other facets of their life that are the most difficult. It's not just about the illness. So if all of the other services or agencies or departments that people are dealing with can collaborate together with the goal being the best outcome for the client and what the client's goals are, that's going to give them the best quality of life.